everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Power Podcast. This is your girl, Nicole, aka Relly, and I am joined by a very special guest. I have with me Dr. Rhiannon. She is a neurological chiropractor, local. She's my chiropractor and Jen's chiropractor, and I'm so excited to have you on. Welcome to the Power Podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And the reason that I wanted to have Dr. Rhiannon on is because her approach to chiropractic care and how she just, her client approach, firsthand experience from my own experience was unlike anything else I've ever gone through. And we made such a connection from the start.
Yeah.
And she's taught me so much about my body. And she does this, you do this with every single client.
Every single one. Little babies, little old ladies, and everybody in between.
I love it. I love it. So, we're going to talk about, I'm excited for her to share her approach to client care. Her as a neurological chiropractor, you hear that and you're like, oh my gosh, that sounds really scientific, really specific.
It is, yeah. But I don't want it to be intimidating for people either.
Yes.
And thank you so much for your kind words about how really expansive what we do in my office is, because that's how I feel about power. That's why I recommend people to come here, because I say it's not like going to a gym, like just a general gym. It's not even just like having your individual personal trainer. The programs that you guys are do is so individual and so tailored to people, and especially for getting outcomes and achieving goals without injury.
Yes.
I see patients who go to all sorts of local gyms, and they usually start coming to me because they got hurt. I've never had a single person come to me from Power because they got hurt.
I loved it. Thank you so much. And when we've talked numerous times, and both our approach at Power and Dr. Rhiannon's approach with her own clients is very similar.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
It's need-based, outcome-based.
Yes.
And it's about, how can we make their experience the best that it can be?
Yeah, I love that you said outcomes, because when people will ask me, especially like I'll have patients who have family members out of state or, out of country even, and they're like, well, how do I tell my brother-in-law how to pick a chiropractor, how to find a chiropractor like you? What are their assessments? How did they determine, A, whether you need to be adjusted, right? B, where you need to be adjusted, and how are they measuring whether you're getting progress or not? If it is just based on symptoms, that's not really a measurement on whether we are changing the physiology, right? And so that's what we start with in my practice, is we do scans of the nervous system. So when people hear neurological and then chiropractor follow it, it seems like, well, how do those two things go together? Yeah. Especially for some reason in the capital region, people associate chiropractic with bones, with joints, with neck pain, with back pain. And so when they hear that actually my specialty is pediatrics, I adjust little tiny babies hours old, they're like, what in the world what are you doing to these babies? Because if you look on TikTok, if you look on YouTube, what are you seeing? You are seeing chiropractors, and actually some people who are not chiropractors, yanking on people and cracking things. And even, I don't know if you've seen, they have a new show on TLC, the Learning Channel, called Crack Addicts.
No.
Yeah, it's like Dr. Pimple Popper, but there's a chiropractor. Huh. And the sound effects of the adjustments that she's performing, I mean, I love that it's a female chiropractor because we're a male-dominated industry, but it is the sound effects that they overlay, so because people love to hear crack, 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 right? And so people think chiropractic is about bones and joints. From the very, very beginning of chiropractic, it was about the nervous system. And along the way, over the past 100+ years, the American Medical Association, they're like, okay, well, what do we do with these chiropractors, right? Because we can't absorb them, because then they would prescribe drugs and do surgery, and we are a drugless profession, and we actually continue to fight to remain a drugless profession. There are many states in this country that are trying to give us the ability to prescribe, and we're like, no, we do not want to do that. I am not saying that surgery and drugs are not a necessary part of disease care and of trauma care by any means. There are medical doctors that are absolutely saving thousands, millions of lives. I am not at all saying that we don't need that, but that is disease and trauma care. That is not health care. And so as a foundation of chiropractic, what we do is let's look to the source of the self-healing and self-regulating function of the body, which is the nervous system, the innate intelligence that flows through every single cell of our body through the nervous system. So if all I'm doing is saying, okay, Nicole, you came in because your neck hurts, well, let me adjust your neck. We're just using outward symptoms, and so then when you feel better, does that mean that I don't need to adjust you anymore? Like, what was our analysis?
Right.
So because you started as a patient in my office, with every single patient, whether they are an infant or, my oldest patient right now is 95, we do scans of the nervous system.
Guys, when I tell you, anybody at Power who I've talked to about Dr. Rhiannon and what she does, the first thing I do is whip out my folder with my scans.
I love that
like,
you have it at the ready.
I do. It is so informational and educational, and that's what I love so much about where your passion lies, is educating your clients. Why are we doing these things? What are we looking for? What are we looking to achieve? Like, all of that is so important because, like you're saying, sometimes it's like, okay, this hurts, let's quote unquote fix it, whatever that means, and then it potentially could be ignored because it's healed.
Right.
Heavy
Well,
air.
it's interesting, the intake paperwork in our office, we ask people to give me 3 goals, right? And many times people will just be like, get out of pain, get out of pain, get out of pain, right? Or the goal that they give me is like, improve my posture, better balance, and then obviously, I want my pain to go away, or increased range of motion, something like that, right? But all very structural biomechanical things. And then they get through the paperwork, we go through traumas. So what physical traumas has your body gone through? Have you been pregnant and given birth? Were you in a car accident? Do you have any sports injuries? Do you sit at a desk all day? That's a major physical trauma, right? And then we go through, okay, thoughts, right? What are emotional stresses? What's your relationship like? What sort of work stress do you have? What sort of financial stress do you have? Then we talk about toxins, right? What are the toxins in the food that you're consuming? What type of water and how much water are you getting? What does your diet look like? What are the toxins in your household, right? Because when I say toxins, people think smoking, drinking, right? Well, what are you cleaning your house with? What sort of lotions and potions are you putting on your body, right? So, and we've got a lot of great resources locally for clean beauty products, clean, house cleaning products, things like that. But then, so they get through that, and at that point, they're like, what in the world is this doctor asking me about this for? And then at the end, we literally give them a checklist that goes through every system of your body. We're asking you about allergies and digestion and immune system and autoimmune stuff and eczema and bedwetting, and all of this stuff where they're like, I'm at the chiropractor's office. Like, I don't understand why they're asking me this.
Still.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
I sure do.
But once I go over their scans with them, they completely get off of what they even thought they came in for. And that's not because I'm trying to get them off of it. I don't want to minimize. If you came here because you have migraines or because you have sciatica or whatever it is, I don't want to minimize the impact that's having on your quality of life by any means. We're not going to ignore that. But the reality is those type of symptoms are usually so secondary to your house is on fire, the system is breaking down, because those other symptoms, especially digestion, sleep issues, anxiety, these things are really, they show us that we have a multi-system problem. And there is one, so when you look at, we talked about medicine. When you look at the medical system, it is broken down into doctors for different systems of your body. You have a heart doctor, and you have a lung doctor, and you have a foot doctor, and you have a lady parts doctor, and all these other doctors, right? As if you are like this Mr. Potato Head with all these separate parts, right? But what is the one system of your body that controls, coordinates, monitors, regulates every other system? It's your nervous system. So we do 3 scans in the office, okay? Scan number 1, I don't know if you remember, you stuck your fingers.
I sure did.
You stuck your fingers in the
it
little
was
thing.
hard the first time. Remember that? We couldn't get the scan.
Yeah.
I was a hot mess.
And that is, it's called an HRV. Many people, I'm sure a lot of your clients in particular are familiar with what an HRV is because it's in their Fitbits and their Apple Watches and stuff. That's obviously a much more rudimentary version of what we're doing in the office, but the concept is the same. Heart rate variability, yes. So we have other parameters that ours is reading as well, but it doesn't mean that what you have in your watch isn't a great tool for you to get an idea of where you're at. And so that's showing us the autonomic nervous system. Do you remember what the autonomic nervous system does?
The parasympathetic and sympathetic
Yes.
fight or flight.
Yes.
Yep.
So sympathetic, that side, S thinks stress. It's the stress response.
Yep.
Parasympathetic, I always say to my patients, not to be crude, but for you to remember, because the words sound so much the same, parasympathetic starts with P. Think pee and poop. Digestion, immune system, reproductive system, sleep.
Your regulatory systems.
Yes. So we should be hanging out in parasympathetic, having all this great self-healing, self-regulating stuff until our brain perceives a stress. Okay? And that word perceive is so important because I can't tell you how many patients on that initial visit, they're like, I'm not stressed. I had this guy, he's an awesome guy, he's so cool. He was this bodybuilder, he owns a landscaping company, he does competes in jujitsu now, like super cool. But like, he owns a business, like I'm not stressed, I have no stress. No stress at all.
You're like, your scans tell me
Yeah,
you're
your
lying.
the scans don't lie. I tell patients that all the time. You can tell me whatever you want, but your scans don't lie. But it's really, maybe he's good at managing stress, right? Like maybe in his head he doesn't feel anxious. Maybe in his head he doesn't feel overwhelmed, but his nervous system is saying, we are freaking out all the time.
Or he's used to being in that state
Yeah,
all the time.
that's his normal, right?
Exactly.
That's his baseline.
Yeah.
So, and that's his set point, which is what we talk about when I go over these scans with people, because a lot of times they'll be like, oh, well, I was having a bad day that day. Do you think that's why? No, because the scan is not, remember that scan goes for 3 minutes. I don't have you stick your fingers in there and we do it for 10 seconds. We're getting, what is your baseline? What is your set point? So I use the analogy of a thermostat and a thermometer. Okay, so if we look at the thermometer on the wall, that tells me what temperature is the room right now, right?
It's a moment.
Yes, and so I bet in this room, after you have had a bunch of people working out, the room is warmer than it was, right? But you have the thermostat set to a certain amount. So after all those people leave the room from their workout, the thermostat brings it right back down to that set point, right? We want to affect, with your neurological chiropractic adjustment, we want to affect that set point so that you are in the middle on that scan. Now, the one thing I don't like about the scan is that they call that autonomic balance. Okay, and balance, the word balance implies 50-50.
Yeah.
And that is confusing to people because then they think, oh, I'm half in sympathetic, half in parasympathetic, like I'm equal amounts. But that's actually not true. It's not possible to be half in sympathetic and half in parasympathetic. At any given moment in time, you're all in or all out.
It just means your body's able to regulate when and where.
So I tell them, because at the bottom of that line that's in the center of the graph, it doesn't say 50, it says 100. So 100% what? Adaptable. Able to respond to the demands of your environment appropriately. For example, when you are training a client, you are purposely putting their body in a stress response.
Everybody who's listening, when you're working out, we say it all the time. You are putting your body under stress.
Yes.
I'm just going to talk to you about.
But the important part is, if your nervous system isn't regulated, and we're going to talk about this in the workshop, which I know you're going to mention.
Yes.
The important thing is, first of all, if your set point is in the stress response, then then that workout is reinforcing that stress response, and you're not going to recover. We want, after the workout that you put them through, we want them to now shift over into parasympathetic, because in parasympathetic is where they rebuild. That's where they get the muscle mass. That's where they get the recovery.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the results come from after the workout in that parasympathetic state. And so if they are not balanced according to that scan, right? But if they're not adaptable on that scan, they're not going to get the optimal results from the workout that they go through. And so that's why trainers, physical therapists, occupational therapists, speech therapists, whatever type of people that are putting input into the body, they love to co-manage people with me because they get exponential results with their clients, with their patients. Because when we have a foundation of an actually regulated nervous system, then it's going to respond exactly to the stimuli that you're giving it.
As it should.
Mm-hmm. As it should. Yeah. But we have physical, chemical, emotional stresses in our life. Like our culture has evolved so much faster into this. We have engineered a culture of stress in this country. I mean, in most parts of the world, but especially in this country. And then we want to know why our bodies are breaking down, and it's because we are putting the demands on them that they're meant to have at only moments in time, chronically. So that HRV says, how is the autonomic nervous system functioning overall? Then the second scan, the thermal scan, I call that our street level view.
Yeah.
So like if I Google mapped Nicole's nervous system, right? That HRV is giving me like the satellite view. Overall, where are we at? What are we working with here? And then the thermal scan is still reading the autonomic nervous system, but now we're looking at it at each segment along the spinal cord. Notice I said spinal cord, not spine, because it's not reading the temperature of the bones.
It's not the bones, yeah.
It's not reading the temperature of the bones. It's reading the temperature. Now, why are we reading temperature, right? Are nerves warm or cold? No. We're reading the temperature because we want to know how the autonomic nervous system is working. And so the temperature over the skin is dependent on the blood flow to those capillaries. And the very first branch of each one of those nerves that comes out between each vertebra, that little nerve, the recurrent meningeal nerve, its job is to, all it does is make the blood flow go to the capillaries. So if you have a difference in temperature side to side, it's because you have different nerve flow side to side. So we know that there's an imbalance of neurological output and input at that level. So it gives me an idea, okay, so Nicole, you might have come in with sciatica today, but we look at your thermal scan and it's beautiful in your lumbar region. I believe you. I am not calling BS on your complaint, but it's not coming from that area because all of the nerves that came out there had to come all the way from the top. Now, is that the case in every sciatica case? No, but it is shocking how often you find that the actual root cause of the issue is not anywhere near where the symptom is. So if you're seeing a traditional chiropractor whose method of analysis and determining if you need to be adjusted and where you need to be adjusted and how you need to be adjusted is by going by what you tell them hurts and them feeling where muscles and things are tight or where you have a lack of range of motion, they're not seeing the big picture of what's going on with the nervous system. I'm not saying, do I use palpation? Do I use range of motion? I do leg checks, I do in my office. There's actually, every single time you come in the office, there are 5 different things that I'm actually coordinating and making sure they all point to the same piece of information before I will adjust. Because it is just as important to know when not to adjust as it is to know when to adjust. When we over adjust and we overwhelm the nervous system, that's when patients regress. So a lot of times when I have a new patient on their first adjustment, if they have seen another chiropractor before me, many times their first response is, oh, that's it?
Yeah. Her adjustments are maybe 3 minutes, maybe. Like, you're on the table. I think we're talking for longer than I'm on the table.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, you can hang out with me as long as you want.
I would love to.
But when they say like that's it, I'm like, I mean, how many vertebrae do you think you have? I mean, I don't know. How many things do you want me to move?
Yeah, and just you explaining why it's important. Not saying that adjustments aren't necessary. It's really understanding, what you said about the sciatic. So I'm kind of going in a different direction, but like saying it might not stem from where you think it is. I think of clients here that say, oh, my knee hurts. A lot of the times, not every time, a lot of the times it's ankle pain or ankle limitation or hip limitation that is dumping into the knee because your knee is taking on what the rest of your leg can't handle. Very similar to, what your scans of the nervous system are telling you.
Well, and also when we're looking at extremities, do I adjust extremities? Yes, when it's appropriate. But when we're talking about extremities, we need to realize that the brain's, first of all, pain is a perception from the brain, right? That doesn't mean I don't want to acknowledge how very real pain is. I have 2 sprained ankles right now. I will tell you, I understand.
She's still here?
And I'm still here.
Oh my God.
So I'm not trying to minimize how much pain affects people, but we need to realize what pain really is. Proprioception, it's a real fancy word, but all it means is your brain perceiving where your body is in space. Okay, and so every single joint, every single muscle fiber, tendon fiber, ligament fiber are sending input to your brain about where you are in space. That's why you can close your eyes and touch your nose. That's why when you walk into a room, you don't have to stare at your feet. You know where your body is in space inherently. When we have a disconnect in that proprioceptive system, especially in the central nervous system along the spinal cord, now you are going to have inaccurate information coming from your extremities. So when someone is having improper hip mobility, ankle, knee, those things that you just mentioned, are they using those joints inappropriately because their brain doesn't know where those joints really are. It's not accurately, it's not controlling the body properly because it's not receiving accurate information from the body. That's why it's so important if you're gonna do a workout, I don't care if you're training for the Olympics or if you just are getting in shape for your wedding or you wanna stretch and be flexible or whatever it is. I mean, I practiced in Lake Placid for many years. I've adjusted Olympic athletes. It doesn't, nobody's nervous system is more important than somebody else's. Like, and that's why I find it interesting when it's like this badge of honor that like I saw this sports chiropractor and it's like, I would love to adjust Tom Brady, but I'm not going to give him any different of an adjustment as I'm going to give you or as I'm going to give this 5-year-old.
I'm just like Tom Brady. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Although my goal in life is to adjust Rachel Ray. I will say that, yes.
Hey, she grew up locally. So
Yes,
Rachel
yes.
Ray, if you're listening,
I know.
A, thanks for being a fan, and B, Dr. Rhiannon would love to have you as a client.
I've met her 3 times at book signings, but all 3 were before I was a chiropractor. So,
All right, we'll have to arrange a meetup with you too.
but my point is, no matter what you're trying to do, if you're trying to improve your reading comprehension in a kid, if you're trying to improve speech or reaching motor milestones, or you're trying to improve your workouts, or you're trying to improve your weight loss, right? When people are talking about trying to lose weight, well, if your brain doesn't know what to do with either the broccoli or the donut that you put into it, if it is not having accurate information from your digestive tract about what you just put in it, it's not going to respond appropriately to what you just put in it. And so that's a piece of the puzzle that we need to understand. And I mean, not to get too off track here, but that people talk about this gut-brain connection all the time, which is very, very real, but I wish they would call it the brain-gut connection. Like they're going backwards, as if the gut was more important than the brain, right?
Yeah.
Are they communicating? 100%. But we need to understand that the information that the brain receives from the gut, if it's not receiving accurate information because we have dysregulation in the nervous system, specifically dysautonomia. That just means dysfunction of the autonomic nervous system. What is the major nerve of our autonomic nervous system? The vagus nerve, right? So that it's so important for people to understand whatever their goals are for this new year, for whatever phase and season of life that they're in, that if we start from a place of a balanced and healthy and adaptable nervous system, it's going to be that much easier to reach their goals.
Do we get all that? I love listening to Dr. Rhiannon talk. I really do, because not only is she knowledgeable in so many ways, you're so passionate about it.
Yeah.
And you want people to learn and understand about how they can help themselves with the information that you give them.
Yes, because that's what I feel like, is I feel like I have this secret that people should, why don't they know about it?
Gift.
Like, why?
It's a gift. It's not a
It's
secret.
not a gift, but I just feel like chiropractic shouldn't be such a secret. And it bums me out when I meet people that have seen chiropractic, when they're like, well, I've seen a chiropractor before.
Yeah. And for whatever happened.
For whatever their experience was, they didn't explain to them the power that they have inside of their body. When patients thank me for like, oh, thank you for fixing this, or thank you for healing that, I say, I didn't heal anything. I didn't fix anything. First of all, I can't help you if you don't show up. And second of all, the healing did not happen on my adjusting table. The healing happened in between your adjustments when you were actually fully regulated and integrated, and your nervous system was able to fully integrate every one of the millions of pieces of information that were going into it in a second. That is when the healing happens, is in between.
You're almost like the catalyst. Well, it's like, and it's
Yeah, I'm
also
facilitating it.
Yeah, exactly. You're figuring out, okay, where are the imbalances, and the scans that you were talking about, and between the scans and the checklist, I look at both of mine together, because when I checked off all of my symptoms, I looked at my scans, my initial scans, and I was like,
And they
this
match.
makes exact sense.
And they match.
And things like that, just understanding how, like, we always say everything is connected, and it's so true. And understanding how and where and what we need, maybe not need to do, but where we have the opportunity to improve,
Yes.
is that's such a valuable thing to know. And this is why the reason that I have Dr. Rhiannon on the podcast, we're going to talk about the specifics, but she is going to come in and host a workshop for our clients to talk more in depth about this. And like, if you think this is amazing, because I'm like, I need to get rescanned, like I'm so excited. But it's just to understand how the body works and how how you can take that information and use it to your advantage to help you reach your goals or whatever it is that you
Yeah,
want to do.
because that's the thing too, is it's interesting because when I give someone a care plan in the beginning, right? So you've had a care plan, you
Yep.
know, that when someone asks me what the most important part of the practice is, I don't even say the scans, to be honest. The care plan. The care plan is the most important thing. So when
100%.
someone says to me, you know, I can't come in that often. And everybody's care plan is different. Somebody's care plan might be once a month, somebody's care plan might be every day. I mean, everybody is different, but depending on their scans. Scans determine plans, right? But the care plan is so important. So when someone says to me, you know, I've got a wedding coming up this month, or I'm going to be out for the next 3 weeks because of X, Y, or Z, I say, you know, wait until you get back then. Because if you just come in willy-nilly here and there, you're wasting your time and you're wasting your money because we're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
The momentum is so important because what we're working with is neuroplasticity. And I think that's what I really want to talk about at the workshop and get into is what is neuroplasticity and how can we change the brain on a daily basis to how it responds to our environment. That's my job. I'm working with changing the brain and how it responds to different stimuli. But at the end of a care plan, is there really an end of a care plan? Yes, there's an end to the restoration care plan. Your initial care plan when you come in, that's your restoration care plan. That's the care plan to get you to your optimal.
Yeah.
And then after that is your wellness care plan. What are we going to do to maintain that, right? And then that's the point where we go, okay, now what can you do outside of here? How do you want me to help you? Who can I connect you to for your diet? Who can I connect you to for your workouts, right? Who can I connect you to? Maybe we're going to talk about infrared. Maybe we're going to talk about cryotherapy. Maybe we're going to talk about detoxes. Maybe, do I do any of that stuff in my office? I don't. I don't.
Yeah.
Why? I know there's a lot of chiropractic offices that do a whole lot of not chiropractic stuff in there. And none of that stuff is bad. I love that stuff. But if I have time to do all that other stuff, then I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing right. I mean, you've been in my office.
Yeah.
Does it look like I have time to do any of that other stuff?
Do you have time to breathe? Like, I wonder.
But my point is, we have amazing resources here locally. Like, we have such amazing partners, and I would much rather send a patient who's looking for nutrition consultation or who's looking for personal training, like at Power, and say, I want to send you to these people because they're just as passionate about that as I am about neurological chiropractic.
I'm so glad you said that because you identified what you do really well and you double down on that.
Yeah.
Same thing with us here. It's like we can offer every single modality under
Right.
the sun if we wanted. Does that make sense? No, because we know we do certain things really,
Yes.
really well. And same thing, we're going to refer out. You know, I've done that before. Hey, you're looking for this specific, that's not something we offer. Let me connect you to somebody.
Right.
Exactly what you do too. And
Right.
it's a win-win for everybody.
When someone
It
comes
really
into
is.
my office and they're like, I just need you to adjust me and fix my neck today. Like, I don't want the scans. I don't want a care plan. I'm like, that's not what happens here. There's a great chiropractor right down the street. He's got great reviews. I know that his patients love him. I know he takes your insurance. I am sure he would be happy to give you that adjustment today.
Yeah.
That's just not what we do in my office. In my office, we actually work on healing and restoring the integrity of the nervous system. I'm not there to chastise them that they don't want what it is that I do. I'm happy to connect them to whoever does what they want.
Yeah, and I'm so happy you said that because and I said it in the beginning, is how your like client care plan is very similar in a lot of ways to us with our clients.
Yes.
Our clients here, and that's in Sophia words, there needs to be more of that. It's like we should never be working against each other.
Yeah,
and, like,
that scarcity
kind of, like,
mindset is
yes.
so wild,
Yep,
and there's no reason for it.
Exactly, and there's so much opportunity to help so many people in so many different
Mm-hmm.
ways. And, you know, like they say, there's an ask for every seat.
Mm-hmm.
And there is somebody who will help you with what you need and what you want. And even if it's not us, we want to make sure that you're still in good hands
Mm-hmm. Yes.
when you walk out the door.
Yep. Yeah,
and-
we're here to serve people, and if I'm not the right fit for them, let's find who is.
Yes.
Right. And I think that I'm sure you guys see it. I know Britt sees it. The community is looking for actual answers now. I think we're done with quick fixes. Right? We're done with the crash diets. We're done with we're gonna work out 5 hours a day until we injure ourselves. We're done with what's the next prescription to get rid of my symptom? We're done with that as a society, as a community. Like, I just see families, moms, like they want actual answers. They want to get to the root causes of things. And it's such a turning point right now in our culture, in our community locally. And I think this is an exciting time, but we got to be ready for it. We got to be ready for it. We got to be on our A game. It's so important,
100%.
especially with the kids that I serve. I mean, the kids on the spectrum, it's just, there's such a need, and families are looking for answers that aren't drugs.
Yeah.
They're looking for answers that aren't just, therapies. Are therapies great? Absolutely, they are great. But when we apply therapies to a dysregulated nervous system, we don't get the results that those children deserve.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited for it. What I really think we should encourage people to do, though, if they when they sign up for the workshop,
Yes.
I would love to have them submit questions. I mean, I would love to come prepared with, like, throw it at me. I want them to ask me, because I can talk in general forever about this, but I want them to know, hey, this is a workshop. I'm doing it for free here at Power because I love you guys. And I want them to feel like they can come in and ask me anything without the pressure of signing up for a consult, right? Like, let's just get nerdy and talk about the nervous system.
Yes.
And just touch on what are the things that they're wondering about, especially, new year, I'm sure they have new goals, they're working on new things, and how does the nervous system play into that? And how would a regulated nervous system benefit them in reaching their goals?
Yeah, I love that. And you heard it here first. So the workshop that we've been talking about, and when you sign up, there will be a follow-up. So when each person signs up for the workshop, there's going to be a follow-up. Do you have a question for Dr. Rhiannon? And you might not, and that's okay. It's not a requirement.
You can have a question that day. That's fine.
Yes.
Yep.
She wants to know how she can help you, and maybe it's just, hey, can you help me understand this? I don't know.
Yeah.
Any question that pops into your head. The workshop itself is Saturday, February 17th, right here at Power at 10 a.m. I cannot wait. And you started to talk about, what can people expect of the workshop?
I think that I want to talk about neuroplasticity.
Yes,
That concept of the fact that your brain and your nervous system is memorizing and integrating every piece of information that it receives. And so how can we optimize that so that your nervous system is adapting and making changes in a way that's going to have optimal outcomes for you in whatever that is in your life? And what are other things? Everybody's talking about biohacking these days, right? I really want to talk about that because they're confusing biohacking, like cryotherapy and infrared and red light, which are all really great, cool modalities, and I do them as well. But if we layer that stuff on a dysregulated nervous system, you are making the problem even worse. So it's the sequence of things.
It's the root of all of these things that you're talking about is the nervous system, and making sure that's regulated and working optimally. And then whatever it is that you want to do,
whatever your goals are, what do we layer onto that foundation to get you where you want to go? But if that foundation is not solid, you're going to crumble on your way up to the top of that pyramid.
Yeah,
So
I mean, think of, and when we were talking about the nervous system, parasympathetic and sympathetic, if you're constantly stressed and in fight or flight, then it's probably unsurprising that you're not able to reach the goals that you're setting for yourself, because your body's like, what the fuck is going on? Yes, we can swear on this podcast.
good for you. But also, we're going to give people passes to get scans.
Oh, I can't wait.
So if you want some scans at my office, come to the workshop so that you can get your pass for one.
Oh my gosh. If I can recommend anything, is seeing Dr. Rhiannon. She is a wealth of knowledge and will help you understand your body and where those temporary barriers are.
I love that you said temporary.
Yes, temporary barriers that are blocking your success in whatever that looks like, because, like she's saying, we have this amazing ability to correct and
Self-healing, self-regulating.
Yes. So, and it just starts with understanding where and what needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I love that. I'm excited.
Me
I'm actually gonna be standing and walking at the workshop day,
yes.
so that's gonna be
Ankles
exciting.
will be feeling good. Yes, and I appreciate you taking time. I know this woman is always on her game. She is
thank
always
you. That's very kind of you.
like whether you're in office or we're texting, whatever it is, talking on the phone. She's always excited for opportunities to help.
Yeah,
always.
thank you.
And the fact that we are able to have you at Power, like, I expect this workshop to be absolutely packed.
Oh, it's going to be fire. I'm excited for
It's
it.
going to be fire. Do you hear that? Love it. Well, Dr. Rhiannon, thank you so much again for your time.
Yes.
I'm so excited. Saturday, February 17th, 10 a.m., free for Power clients. You heard it here first. Come and let's get nerdy and really sciencey and learn some stuff.
And fun,
like,
though. It's going to be fun.
Yes, yes. It always has to be fun because that's what we do here.
Yes.
So I really look forward to that. I hope that you, as our listeners or watchers, however you're consuming this podcast, are able to attend, and if not, we'll do more. This is only the first one. Here I am already committing her to
I'm here for it.
Yes. So if you know somebody who would benefit from just hearing what Dr. Rhiannon has to say, please send them this podcast. Leave us a review if you found value from it. Share it with somebody.
And I'm sure you'll put all the info, like for my website and stuff.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes. All of her
I'm
contact
sure we got
information
that.
is going to be in the podcast notes, and it will be shared on our social media as well for the workshop itself on Saturday the 17th. And until next time, power to the people.